While noting that huge sums of money was set aside in the past to help fund various initiatives in Indigenous communities as part of the Norway Agreement with the country, Vice President Bharrat Jagdeo also stated that moving forward, at least 15% of proceeds from the sale of carbon services to the developed world will be channeled to the development of Indigenous communities throughout the country.
And we have pledged that in any future sale of forest carbon, that 15%, at least 15%, will go directly to these communities.
He made those statements at a recent press conference, even as he ventured on to do the math, positing that if the country was to earn $500 million for its forest carbon services, 15% would amount to $75 million, which when converted to Guyana's currency would equal some $15 billion. And that amount, he said, would be channeled to programs for hinterland communities across the country. The Vice President also reminded that monies earned under the LCDS in the past through the Norway Agreement with the country saw some $17 million being set aside for information communication technology hubs in Indigenous communities, while $10 million was set aside for Indigenous land titling activities.
We set aside a huge sum of money from that earned through the Norway Agreement to spend in the Amerindian communities of Guyana. Over 17 million for ICT development in the hinterland, and over $10 million for the land titling activities, another sum of money for the Amerindian Development Fund.
While the Vice President continued to boast of monies being channeled to Indigenous communities, the very next day, the leader of the opposition, Joseph Harman, at a press conference, asserted that the LCDS does not clearly outline how citizens will benefit from programs under that initiative.
The LCDS fails to outline clearly how the people of Guyana will benefit through plans and policies that generate long-term benefits to the people.
Meanwhile, former Minister of Telecommunications Cathy Hughes, during a press conference earlier in the year, alluded to one of the benefits that was derived from the establishment of ICT hubs in hinterland communities under the APNU AFC government, when a women's group in Region 9 was able to produce and market a local product using the government-installed ICT hub in that region.
That these women were able to produce peanut butter. And as they are able to produce the peanut butter, because they have internet and are connected to outlets in the hinterland and in Georgetown, and by a simple email to the women in Aranaputa, you can send your orders and they can produce and send it to you.
Hughes went on to lament that the current administration was no longer funding that initiative and that some of the ICT hubs in some Indigenous communities had become defunct since the incumbent administration took office in 2020. That claim was never confirmed nor denied by the government. This newscast was able to travel to a few Indigenous communities earlier in the year, however, where it was observed that the internet facilities at some locations were not functioning, while some were. Wendell Badrie for the HGP Nightly News.